When it comes to stories that exemplify the very best of DC Comics, there are few that spring to mind sooner than Kingdom Come. Brought to life by the team of Mark Waid and Alex Ross in the summer of 1996, this sprawling epic envisages a dark, dystopian future of the DC universe, one where its greatest heroes have long abandoned their duties, only to return to save the world once again from annihilation. Published as a 4-issue miniseries under the company's Elseworlds label, Kingdom Come is regarded as one of the greatest DC comics of all time, and a story that genuinely shook the comic book industry to its very core. In a lot of ways, Kingdom Come feels like the true epilogue to the DC universe, a conclusion that features all of the company's greatest characters in their final moments, whilst also paying tribute to the decades of storytelling that came before it, celebrating the iconic history of DC Comics and the hope its heroes bring to a world that has long forgot what it means to be a hero. To me, Kingdom Come is a genuinely brilliant story, and in this video, I want to explain the history of just how it came to be, how the team of Mark Waid and Alex Ross perfectly brought it to life, and what makes it, in my opinion, one of the greatest comic book stories ever told. Before we continue though, just a quick reminder to leave a like on this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe to Owen Likes Comics so you don't miss out on any future videos. The origins of Kingdom Come can actually be traced back to 1994, when artist Alex Ross teamed up with Kurt Busiek to create Marvels, an epic cinematic journey through the history of the Marvel Comics universe, documenting many of the most seminal moments in the company's history from the perspective of everyday on-the-ground people. Now, following the release of Marvel's final issue in April 1994, Ross got the idea to tell a similar type of story with the DC universe. Taking inspiration from the work of Alan Moore, Ross initially envisaged this as something comparable to the scale of Watchmen, whilst taking story ideas from a pitch Moore had made prior to his exit from DC in 1987. This pitch, known as Twilight of the Superheroes, was designed to be the last ever DC Comics story, drawing its influence from the events of Ragnarok in Norse mythology and providing a definitive ending to many of DC's most beloved characters. And while Moore's pitch was never fully realised, Ross saw an opportunity to combine this idea with what he had already done with Marvel's, creating a story that would celebrate the long and storied history of DC's greatest characters, while simultaneously telling what could essentially be the epilogue for the company's entire universe. As Ross explained in an interview with Wizard magazine,
"The idea for Kingdom Come was gestating while I was working on Marvels. I started working on the pitch, a long 40-page handwritten outline, when I was working on the 3rd issue of Marvels. I figured while I'm doing my grand opus of Marvel, I've got to do a grand opus about DC characters. Initially, I pitched the story to James Robinson, because I figured he was a young wannabe Alan Moore, and I wanted this thing to be as much like a Watchmen type project as possible. Mark Waid was the one who came most well recommended by the DC editors, in terms of his love and knowledge of the history of DC heroes. And that's how that marriage occurred.
Although Ross had hoped he would work with James Robinson, a writer who had garnered acclaim for his recent reinvention of Starman, he was instead quickly paired with Mark Waid, a writer who had not only found success recently on The Flash, but was often praised for his deep knowledge of DC lore and history. Together, the pair got to work developing Ross's idea into a full-fledged story, devising an alternate universe where the generation of heroes most DC readers were familiar with had been replaced by a new generation of harsher and more morally ambiguous characters. As you might imagine, this idea to contrast the older generation of heroes with a new hyper-violent crop was inspired by the changing nature of the comic book industry at this time, with the 1990s seeing a notable rise in these more grim and gritty characters. As a result, Kingdom Come served as a commentary on the industry on behalf of Ross and Waid, satirising the new wave of characters that were being produced by Marvel, DC and Image Comics, as well well as celebrating the era of superheroes that they both fell in love with. Mark Waid actually discussed this in an interview with comicbook.com, where he stated,
"A lot of what we were reacting to was the gestalt of the mid-90s in superhero comics. The idea that all of the new characters who were harsh and violent and beating up on each other without a real sense of humanity to them, that somehow those were more popular and more vital than what was perceived as the old-fashioned bar, your dad's superheroes. Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and those old fogies." That was really very much what we were reacting against.
To Waid and Ross, Kingdom Come was going to be a celebration of the golden and silver ages of comics, and all of the incredible heroes that emerged during those decades. It was to be a series that called back to a time of larger-than-life altruistic heroes, while still dealing with the complex issues and real-world problems that comics had begun to focus on in more modern years. This was an incredibly ambitious task, but one that both Ross and Waid fully believed they could execute. Advertising itself as the greatest superhero epic of tomorrow, Kingdom Come truly set lofty expectations for itself. But once the first issue hit shelves in May of 1996, readers would soon discover that the hype was indeed real. Kingdom Come is primarily told from the perspective of Norman McKay, an elderly pastor who, after seeing visions of the end of the world, is greeted by the Spectre, who confirms his visions to be of the impending future. We see from Norman's perspective the state of the world some decades into the future, with frequent battles between the new generation of heroes occurring in all of the major cities, with little regard for collateral or lost lives, and the memories of the golden generation of heroes being relegated solely to themed restaurants. We soon learn the reason for this, as 10 years earlier, the Joker killed the entire staff of the Daily Planet, and was put on trial after being apprehended by Superman. Before the villain could stand though, he was murdered by Magog, a brand new vigilante who believed that the existing heroes didn't do enough to safeguard the world from evil. Magog's execution of the Joker was met with positive response from the public, with the hero's brutal form of justice causing many of the biggest heroes of the day to walk away entirely. Not long after McKay's visions begin though, a group of heroes fail to stop an attack from the Parasite, with the battle between them irradiating much of the American Midwest, killing millions and destroying much of the country's food production. It's this that serves as the breaking point to coax the original band of heroes back into action, as following the Parasite incident, Wonder Woman visits Superman and encourages him to reform the Justice League, with the Man of Steel returning to Metropolis in heroic fashion to save a train full of people caught in the crossfire of another metahuman fight. With Superman now back, Norman and the Spectre see a vision of 7 angels emerging from the torch of the Statue of Liberty, travelling to see the villain Americommando attempting to assassinate immigrants approaching Ellis Island. McKay and the Spectre watch on as Americommando is stopped by Superman, who is joined by a new iteration of the Justice League, including Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, The Flash, Hawkman and Red Robin, the moniker of the now adult Dick Grayson. The League call a press conference immediately after their return, where Superman outlines their intentions to make things right again, and put an end to the destruction caused by the new breed of heroes led by Magog. We see the world's reaction to this news, as the UN deliberates over whether they can interfere against Superman, while Lex Luthor unites an army of villains to form the Mankind Liberation Front, in an effort to rid the world of metahumans once and for all. In an interesting turn of events, the only former League member not to resurface is Batman, and we see the Dark Knight being visited by Clark Kent soon after, with Bruce telling his longtime friend that his idealist worldview has no place in today's bitter world, and his attempts to force peace will only exacerbate the existing problems. Not only does Batman refuse to rejoin the JLA, but he begins to form his own team in secret, recruiting the likes of Green Arrow, Blue Beetle, and the Martian Manhunter to join his silent cavalry. As the battle lines are drawn between the various factions, Superman discovers Magog hiding out in the remains of Kansas, attempting to rebuild after the battle with parasites. Superman attempts to confront Magog, who responds by bringing up that it was Clark that walked away a decade earlier, when he was willing to do what the Man of Tomorrow never could. Surveying the pain and devastation Magog has caused, Superman remarks that he must be proud of what he's done, causing Magog to attack Clark before falling to his knees, begging Superman to kill him and rid him of the guilt that haunts him. Superman refuses to take Magog's life, as we learn that the JLA have built a facility to detain those they deem at odds against humanity. As the heroes depart, we see Lex Luthor meeting with the Mankind Liberation Front, where we learn that Billy Batson, the former Shazam, is now under Lex's control, as Bruce Wayne enters the boardroom, seemingly proposing an alliance with Lex and his team of villains. As Batman and Lex formulate their plan, the JLA fill the prison with many villains and vigilantes, to the point where it reaches maximum capacity and riots start to break out between the inmates. While the League struggles to maintain order, Lex instructs Billy Batson to transform into Shazam and break the prison open, understanding that only he is capable of defeating Superman. However, once Bruce realises that Lex has tortured and brainwashed Batson, he and the Silent Cavalry attempt to stop Luthor from sending Shazam into the prison, but are unsuccessful. As Wonder Woman leads the JLA to quell the prison riot, Superman confronts Batman, asking the Dark Knight to put aside their differences to stop what could very well be the end of the world. Bruce initially refuses, telling Clark that the world would be better off without metahumans at all, but the Man of Steel responds by telling him that all life is sacred, and that includes metahumans too. Moved by this, Batman informs Superman that Lex has sent Shazam to the prison, with the Man of Tomorrow racing back only to be attacked by Batson himself. Clark slowly gets to his feet and sees Shazam standing above him, as Norman and the Spectre watch from afar, realising that Armageddon has arrived. The climactic issue sees an epic battle between Superman and Shazam, while the JLA and Batman's forces attempt to fend off the escaping prisoners. As the war escalates, we see the UN order a series of nuclear devices to be dropped over the prison, powerful enough to kill everyone bar Superman, and seemingly ending the metahuman problem once and for all. As the bombs are flown to the prison by the Blackhawks, Superman struggles to overcome Shazam, who is still under Luthor's control. However, as Billy rains lightning down upon the Man of Steel, Superman is able to cover his mouth, transforming him back into his human alter ego. Now out of Lex's control, Clark shows Billy their impending doom, telling him to decide what's important to him as he flies to intercept the bombs. As Superman launches himself into the air though, Billy transforms back into Shazam and throws Superman to the ground, before he himself intercepts the bombs, sacrificing himself in the process. The comic flashes white, and when we return, Superman is seemingly all that remains, as the land that was once the prison is now just a wasteland of death and despair. Believing that all of the other metahumans have been killed, Superman angrily flies to the UN and threatens to destroy the building with everyone inside it. It's here that the Spectre finally deems it time to intervene, as Norman McKay attempts to remind Superman of his humanity and his duty to the world. As he does this, the JLA arrive and reveal that they survive, with the heroes all symbolically removing their masks and promising to re-earn the world's trust, as Superman hangs Shazam's cape on a flagpole, pledging a new bond between humans and metahumans. The final moments of Kingdom Come sees this new age in practice, as the JLA begin to return to normal society, promising to use their powers to guide instead of rule. Batman reunites with both Dick Grayson and his son, while Superman attempts to rebuild the Midwest, adopting his Clark Kent persona once again. Norman McKay delivers one final sermon, as the Spectre, now in human form, watches on, informing his church that while the future may look bleak, it is never actually set in stone, and through hope, we can always build a better tomorrow. To me, Kingdom Come is nothing short of an absolute masterpiece. Through a combination of Mark Waid's masterful writing and deep understanding of the DC universe, and Alex Ross's awe-inspiring artwork, this 4-issue series has become one of the most iconic comic book stories of all time. A must-read for anyone who's ever fallen in love with the likes of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and beyond. At its core, Kingdom Come is a story about humanity and the relationship it has with superheroes and gods. Throughout each issue, we see the different factions of heroes struggle with their relationship with the ordinary world, with the likes of Superman first abandoning humanity and allowing them to forge their own path, only to return and believe that he needed to lead the world back into prosperity. The comic's triumphant ending, which sees these larger-than-life heroes accept their role in society, using their extraordinary abilities in unison with the world, reminds us that these heroes aren't great because of their powers or their colourful costumes, but because at their core, they're just like us, and they represent the best of us. This is perhaps demonstrated best in the story through Shazam, a character who is traditionally depicted as a child or a teenager, and is used by Waid and Ross to represent the bridge between the human and the hero, with Billy Batson ultimately sacrificing himself to ensure the world could escape Armageddon and regain the hope it had lost, with Shazam's cape being used as a symbol for a better tomorrow. In a lot of ways, Kingdom Come is an ultimate labour of love, a tribute from Waid and Ross to the titans of virtue that have inspired us for generations, but also to the relatable themes and ideas that make superhero stories so great. At its core, it's a book about the old gunslingers coming back to set the world right once again, only to grapple with the moral dilemmas that come from a world that's no longer black and white. Much like how the comic book industry had evolved during the time of its inception, the future of Kingdom Come isn't a place where heroes are altruistic and infallible, and it's through accepting this that they can become even greater than before. For a book that's so deeply personal to Ross and Waid, with the former even basing the book's narrator Norman McKay around his own father, Kingdom Come is a comic book that resonates with so many people around the world, reminding us that great superhero stories are truly timeless, and the values and ideals that make these heroes so beloved will always remain regardless of what may come. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like on the video and leave a comment down below as well. Let me know your thoughts on everything we talked about in today's video. I can't wait to hear what you have to say as always. If you're new to Owen Likes Comics, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notify bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you enjoyed this video and you want some more, there should be some others on screen right now that you might also enjoy. If you want to help support the channel and help me make more videos, you can do so over at patreon.com/OwenLikesComics. And if you want some more of me, you can follow me on Twitter just at OwenLikesComics. That's all for this video though. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I'll see you next time. But until then, take care and keep reading.